Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Welcome to Everything Co-op, where we bring you cooperative economics to everyday people to let you know how co-ops can help you to improve your life. So today we continue our conversation about the Social Economy Roadshow to New York and Boston, taking place May 25th through May 31st. This initiative brings together leaders from Mondragon, ASETT, Humanity Work&Life, labor organizations, educators, cooperative developers, and community building, working together to create a more democratic and humane society. Today's guests are Iñigo, Michael, Peck, Ibon, and Kaisu. Thank you all for joining us. Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Iñigo, let's start with you. For listeners hearing about ASETT for the first time, what is ASETT and what inspired you to create it?
Well, ASETT inspiration is the cooperative experience of Mondragon. You know, we receive so many visitors from all around the world to Mondragon, and normally they like. Normally they like, okay, because it's different, you know, and because it's something in practice that is real. And sometimes they ask us, okay, that's great. Could we have exactly this in my country? Or, I don't know, my government would like to push this kind of cooperative movement. Do you think that this should be possible? And for years, we have been answering to this question, well, you know what, that is just inspiring, okay? Because we didn't have enough time, no, for working in so many other experiences. But 3 years ago, when we were in the process of a strategic reflection of Mondragon group, we arrived to a clear conclusion that our main goal has for years been the social transformation. And the way that we have done this is through the creation of good jobs, no? If you have a good job, you can achieve so many other things, okay? But just now here in the Basque Country, we have jobs and we don't have enough people, no, to fulfill jobs. And, we think, you know what, that if our experience has been good for Basque Country, we think that probably the world needs more Mondragons, no? Mondragon is a good example of a huge experience, that is the cooperative experience, okay? So ASETT, that is the Arizmendiarrieta Social Economy Think Tank, has 3 pillars. That is a think tank, a prospective institute, and a social lab. And what we want is to analyze which is the role that the companies have to play in the reduction of inequalities and social inclusion. And it's because of that we want to take successful stories from different communities and try to adapt those in other communities and try to scale up those experiences. Because when we talk about social innovation, people think that we have to invent, I don't know, whatever, every day. And sometimes it's enough for taking the existing successful experiences and try to adapt to other communities. And this is the main goal, I would say, of ASETT.
Okay, thank you. Michael Peck, he has mentioned Mondragon since you used to be the coordinator for Mondragon in the U.S. and Canada. Can you tell us what is Mondragon?
Of course. Mondragon is a worker cooperative, economic, competitive, industrial, democratically governed ecosystem. Around 77,000 workers around the world, one of the most global of the Spanish multinationals, I think still the 10th largest Spanish multinational. And one worker, one vote, focusing in a whole with its own university, its own mutual, its own bank, and dedicated to the principles of workplace democracy and cooperative values and operating principles, and an ecosystem that is studied by everybody all over the world. I think everybody else on the show can give you a better definition, but I didn't know you were going to ask me that question.
So why is, Michael, why is this roadshow so important right now at this particular time?
Yes, well, first of all, I'd like to say that it was Iñigo's idea to have the roadshow. And I think, without ever speaking for Iñigo, I think the reason is that the French have this saying. They say that you can have savoir-faire, which is knowing how to do something. But if you don't have faire savoir, which is telling people you know how to do something, then it kind of becomes a net zero. And it's very important in this moment that we're going through in the United States to bring another solution set to the table when people are missing trust and missing truth and searching for systems, and in a very polarized environment. We have a system that has been proven over the past 70 plus years. It's one of the most sought after systems in the world. And now it's part of something called the social economy, which is 8% of the European GDP, 10% and upwards of Spanish GDP. So we bring a critical mass, as Iñigo said, of solutions, of policies, of operating principles, of values to the table. And I think it's good that the U.S. hears this story.
Thank you. Ibon, your work is focused on foresight and future strategy. What major economic and social trends make cooperative models increasingly relevant today?
Yes, this is one special pillar in ASETT, and this is why we were joining efforts with other future research initiative we are leading, because we think the social economy and the cooperative movement also needs some more forward-looking. The world is changing so fast, as my colleagues Iñigo and Michael mentioned. In the next 5 years, we're going to see unprecedented changes, like the transition from the current narrow AI to the future artificial general intelligence, and artificial intelligence that will have capacities similar to human beings. And this has never happened before. So not only the whole business ecosystem, but also the social economy and the cooperative ecosystem needs to be ready for that change, anticipate that change, and make that an opportunity more than a threat. Especially organizations that have the creation of jobs as a first aim, like cooperatives. How to fulfill this principle in a disruptive environment where AI will be replacing many jobs in different sectors. So we think Mondragon is a great inspiration for this because it was able to also manage previous industrial revolutions in a better way, creating more jobs than replacing them, but using an ecosystemic view, also applying important principles based on solidarity, for instance, trying to relocate employment and workforce from areas that were, let's say, more affected by technological disruption to other areas, economic activities where opportunities were rising due to that same technological change. So this is what we need to do now, but we need to anticipate the change, identify global relevant trends, and help the social economy grow. This is the only way we're going to use this as an opportunity to try to address these growing inequalities that are coming in the next years related to that technological change, and also at the same time strengthen the social economy and the cooperative sector to address those challenges.
Fantastic. What I'm hearing you say is as technology increases, particularly AI now, robotics, AI, all of that technology, everybody's afraid that it will replace jobs and people won't have work. And you said, let's look at how to make it an opportunity. Let's increase the social economy, cooperative space, where Mondragon has shown that you can go in and take technology but still create jobs. Okay, got it.
That's it.
Iñigo, Mondragon is one of the world's best-known cooperative systems. What do you believe are the core principles behind its success?
Well, normally we are known because we are the largest industrial co-op in the world, okay? And, well, there are other bigger, let's say, in terms of sales, cooperative experiences. But I think that there are a couple of key factors, no? First of all is that, well, we are a cooperative, very rooted in the territory, in this country, but we have facilities all around the world, more than 100, I don't remember how many, in other countries, but Spain. And this is not about internationalization by itself, it's about to remain competitive. So the point here is that we are a profitable company with values. Okay, this is first of all. And secondly, I think that in terms of well, we are a worker co-op, okay? And all the businesses we have are always worker co-ops, I mean, worker owned. So we know that sometimes we have the mental constraints. No, there is a lot of people that think, okay, this worker co-op could work in agriculture, for example, no, but never in industry, never in banking, no, never in I don't know, in education. Okay, we have our university is a worker co-op, our bank is a worker co-op, all the businesses we have are worker co-ops, our research and development centers are worker co-ops. Okay. So I think that this is the main, probably, characteristics, the most important, that we can show to the world that another way of doing business is possible, and also that the workers are quite good enough for managing these kind of businesses internationally with no special problems. Of course, we need to face problems every day in our lives, in our families, in our communities, okay? But from the business point of view, it's possible to have worker co-ops in whatever the business is. This is the most important thing, in my opinion.
So worker co-op are cooperatives that's owned by the employees, democratically controlled for the benefit of the co-op, for the employees. So Michael, what are some misconceptions Americans have about worker co-ops and the Mondragon model?
Right, so just to deal with the ones that we see coming through the media, the first attack is that it's socialism, where the reality is it's really private sector worker-led ownership. And the impact is it's expanded ownership and opportunity. Another accusation is that it's communism. And the reality is there's no state control, voluntary entry, and the impact is its local self-reliance and its civic democracy. Third accusation is it's Marxism. Again, the reality is it embraces markets. Profit is shared. It's really inclusive stakeholder capitalism. And the last accusation I'll bring up is it's anti-business. Whereas our businesses, our cooperative businesses, prove that we have a proven higher model for higher return on investment. It's competitive, collaborative, workplace excellence. Iñigo mentions in the book, Humanity Work&Life, Volume 2, he has a phrase in Chapter 1 that he wrote, which we're now quoting around here, saying the difference between pre-distribution and redistribution. If you get the pre-distribution structure right, then you really don't need the redistribution. And so this is what we're trying to focus on, as Ibon said, about the challenges coming over the transom, the new technologies that we're facing, the new realities, the new kinds of different political currents changing the planet every single day, if we can come up with the right pre-distributive structures, then we set things right from the outset, and we don't have to go into the redistributive argument. And that saves a lot of time, and it's a lot more competitive.
So when you're talking about distribution, you're talking about money?
Redistribution. I'm talking about one worker, one vote. I'm talking about workplace democracy. I'm talking about 6 different levels of salary between the highest and the lowest. I'm talking about everybody has a voice, and every vote is equal. I'm talking about these kinds of structures that permeate the entire Mondragon experience, from the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom.
Okay. And I've got your whole list that you just said. The one that I focused on is money. How do you distribute money? If you distribute it, it's like you said, there's 6 levels. The highest level may be only 6 times the lowest level, where in the U.S. it's maybe 300 times. And so you don't have to redistribute it if you've got 50% of your population, like in the U.S., that has very low incomes. They don't have enough income to pay for their expenses. So it's how do you distribute the money in the front end, pre-distribution, such that people can live a comfortable life, have a better quality of life?
Yes, so could I turn that question back over to my Mondragon ASETT?
Absolutely.
Colleagues? Okay, good. So Iñigo, would you like to start? Ibon and Kaisu?
Well, well, we know that this could be shocking, but it works, okay? Generally speaking, in the system. And yes, you are right. When we talk to this salary distribution from 1 to 6, no? Of course, the 6 could have a much better salary in other companies. And of course, the 1 is having a very good salary comparing with other ones or low positions in other companies, okay? But this is about how much we need for having a good life, okay? And I always remember one, well, you know, the general managers of the banks in Spain, at least, they have, well, regular meetings, no, in Madrid, in the capital. And once there was one journalist asking to our CEO in our cooperative bank, oh, how do you feel when you are in the same table with people doing the same that you are doing, but they have your salary multiplied by 200, no? How do you feel? And he answered, oh, that's, thank you so much, because this is a very nice question that I have been thinking about so long, no? Because if I have my salary and I have such a good life, now what the hell are doing those men with this incredible quantity of money? So how much do you really need for having a good life? And I think that is the point.
I think too.
That is so totally the point. We were at a Mondragon event in Pittsburgh, and a big foundation there, no need to mention the name. I asked one of our Mondragon members, well, if we create this enterprise and it becomes really successful, what's to stop people from demutualizing to, which happens a lot with ESOPs, which happens a lot with credit unions sometimes, but what's to stop demutualization from happening? And the Mondragon person, very smart guy, didn't understand the question. He said, I don't think I understand this question. Can you please repeat the question? And they repeated the question. He said, why would I want to get rid of my job? The job is the most important thing. And the job comes with equity. It's not just a paycheck. It comes with equity. And that equity builds over time if the cooperative is successful. And it's enough for a very successful middle-class life. And when visitors come to Mondragon, and there's about 4,000 of them every year, they notice that, okay, we don't have gazillionaires on the hillside, but we don't have people sleeping in the streets either. There is a resilient, cohesive, solidaristic middle class, and I think that's the goal of this model.
I think that's fantastic, particularly when you can get people to change their mindset that, what do I need in order to have a good quality of life?
How much is enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, how much is enough? The existential question or incapable of answering in the United States of America is how much is enough.
So, Michael, you helped to launch initiatives like One Worker, One Vote and Affordable Cooperative Mutualistic Housing Coalition. Why is ownership so important to building healthy communities?
Well, I mean, that's a very important question. When I was working on Capitol Hill, I was chauffeuring a U.S. senator that I worked for through a place called Martinsburg, West Virginia, Vernon, and I know you know it's in the Eastern Panhandle, the other side of the state from West Virginia, which, by the way, West Virginia is the only U.S. state that is 100% in Appalachia, for anybody who wants to know that fact. And we were driving past a car wash, and the car wash had a big neon sign outside, and it said, "Nobody washes a rental car." And I think that's the answer to the question. Ownership isn't possession. It's not dominion. It's opportunity to collaborate in a shared ecosystem in terms of values and mission. And we've seen people in the Mondragon experience willingly not allow themselves to be hired by outside competitors, because people in Mondragon are extremely well trained, because they don't want to give up the sense of mission for something like a numerical differential in salary. We've seen people sign up for the mission when there's not in Mondragon, but just in organizing new movements where there's nothing to offer except a lot of hard work and sacrifice and hours, because the mission itself helps make life work. I think that we're discounting this part of the reason why we're here, and you cannot translate it into dollars and cents.
So I just want to add right here, Dame Pauline Green, who was the president of ICA, International Cooperative Alliance, she said on this show that co-ops help people to come out of poverty with dignity. And that dignity part of it is like the redistribution that you were talking about. I'll put it to money, but this whole redistribution of somebody's own self-worth gets to be critical in a co-op, that you can get dignity, voice, you have a say. All of the things that you were talking about, Michael, and I put it down to money, but yeah, it's all of these different kinds of things that one can get out of being in a co-op and learning how to operate in a co-op. Talking about learning, I'm going to go to Kaisu now to talk about education. So, Kaisu, you tell us about the Mondragon Team Academy and Traveling You. What's the vision behind these educational initiatives?
And thank you so much, Vernon. Mondragon Team Academy actually started off from within the Mondragon University that Iñigo was mentioning before. The entrepreneurship and the business faculty of the university was going through a reflection of how can we empower the future generations of youth to lead, to build collaboratively, and also to somehow maintain the cooperative spirit alive and the heartbeat of the existing Mondragon group alive, and how could they contribute to that. So an entrepreneurship degree was born, and since then the Mondragon Team Academy has grown as an entrepreneurial unit within the university, but also as extended a network of change makers and young entrepreneurs internationally around the world. And where Traveling You comes to the picture, Traveling You is an educational co-op that works as a strategic ally for Mondragon University's entrepreneurship unit, alongside with also other universities that want to explore international learning experiences in these team-based methods, and how to understand different local contexts around the world. So we design and we take forward different learning programs around the globe. In case of Traveling You, we have our own team here in the Basque Country, also in Shanghai in China, Seoul in South Korea, and in Berlin, Germany. And then through strategic alliances, also some presence in New York, India, and so on.
So you're teaching cooperative in China.
Yeah, we're teaching about team-based learning and collaborative project work, collaborative leadership, together with our strategic alliances in China. Yes.
Okay. All right. So,
Yes, and you were also asking me, Vernon, what's the vision or what's the connection with the two organizations? So I think it's exactly about this team-based and collaborative way of doing, and also way of seeing the learning as a whole.
so does Ibon or Iñigo or Michael, do they help to teach these classes? And the reason there's a personal reason I'm asking is I've taught 12 years at the college level in the U.S., and I want to get into some space where I'm teaching co-ops, and maybe it's this Mondragon Team Academy or Traveling U. So is there a space for people to come in and help teach these classes?
Yes, definitely, definitely. So one of the backbones of learning in both of these organizations is the fact of the real world is your classroom. So we work together with already existing businesses and business leaders. Michael has been very involved with some of our students, especially exploring the space of cooperative housing. And there are different ways to engage with the teams. It might be throwing a challenge to tangle together. It might be sharing your experience. It might be giving feedback. Also, Yvonne took part of to some of our events in the past. Also, we've had a lot of engagement through our youth convening with ASETT as a whole. So the real world connection, and we would love to have you involved, Vernon, also in that sense on how can we learn mutually as peers, or the young new generations with the experienced professionals.
That sounds great. Okay. So what lessons have you learned about developing collaborative leadership or this team leadership?
I think a lot actually connects with your previous question. So one phrase that I actually learned from Michael was that it takes a village. So I think when we talk about collaborative leadership, the best thing that we can do is to cultivate meaningful relationships. Now we train ourselves on that. Learn about new contexts requires learning from each other and from the local community. So a lot of work that we do is on destination. So if we are going to Seoul, then we really need to learn with the local together with the local communities in Seoul and with those alliances to put an example. And I think it also requires a lot of humbleness, both from us as educators as from the teams that we accompany, in terms of empathizing, adjusting to new contexts, individually and collectively, and kind of navigating through that together.
So we have an educator here. She's an African-American lady named Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart. She wrote a book called Collective Courage that talks about the experience of cooperation in the Black community. Even during slavery, how Blacks cooperated, worked together. And as a matter of fact, during those tough times it called for, and most tough times, if it's the Great Depression, the Great Recession, or any time we're going through tough times like we are now with this administration, is it's like to survive, we have to come together. And she says that the core of all of this is education. And I've got a question, but I'll ask you right after the commercial. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial. Welcome back, everybody. This is Everything Co-op. My name is Vernon Oakes, and we have 4 wonderful guests on with us this morning from around the world. We've been on the air now, Michael, 13 years, and National Co-op Bank has been our main sponsor, financial and otherwise, giving us a lot of information. They are a cooperative banking institution. They came together in the mid-'80s, and their mission is to support cooperatives and their members by providing innovative financial services. One of the big problems with creating co-ops is that normal banks look for people that have assets. And often people starting co-ops don't have a lot of assets. They don't have a lot of land, other buildings, stocks, bonds, and it's owned by many people. So it's hard to get one person to come up and pledge what they have. So this innovation comes in. It's how do you make loans without the assets? And what the folks from NCB have come on and told me that people in co-ops, and I think, Iñigo, you first mentioned it, have values. Okay, it's the whole values and principles. And so paying back a loan is on word more so than collateral. So they've been highly successful working with people that pay back their loans and groups of people that hold each other accountable. So this whole system really, really works. So NCB has been great. And education is what we were talking about before we took break. And it's, I guess I want to ask all of you, but Ibon and Iñigo particularly, how has education worked? Why is it important for cooperatives and entrepreneurial development, this whole piece of education?
I would start by saying that this is one of the big challenges we have in ASETT, and one of the reasons why we created this initiative, because we find that there is still a despair between the social economy and cooperative movement, and let's say the rest of the business ecosystem. So when most of the people go to college, they study business administration, economics, even engineering or similar studies. There is almost none content related to cooperatives or to social economy. What we learn in traditional colleges is how to maximize profits, how to be competitive, how to be the first one in the sector, in the market. But there is a big lack of cooperative education still in the world, and especially in the business related studies. So we saw that ASETT had as a think tank, do tank, and let me call it also as a lobby, had a big role on trying to change the current education curricula all over the world. To say, of course, in the current market, it is important to be competitive. But this is not against having principles in business activity. You following ethical principles, following solidarity, trying to get a social transformation in your environment. So this is a big task we still have, and we think there are very, very good grounds, because there are lots of college and education institutions that are teaching cooperative management and cooperative education all over the world. Mondragon University is a good example, but we have many others in North America, in South America, in Europe, Asia, and so on. So we need to expand that kind of education so that we really go for a systemic change in the business ecosystem.
Iñigo, before I ask you to answer that question, I told you I've worked 12 years at the college level. I taught mathematics for 6, and then I taught business for 6. I got my MBA out of Stanford, and all decisions were made on what's the greatest return on investment, ROI. That's the profitability, and that's to the stakeholders. That's to already rich people. What kind of return can we give them? And this whole thing on being competitive, as opposed to cooperation, team building, collaborative, solidarity. So what's being taught in these schools, I also taught at Howard. That's where I taught the marketing. I went back to Howard to see if I could teach a co-op class. It's hard. It was hard. It's a historically black college and university. I also went to Tuskegee and talked to them. They teach a co-op class, but through agriculture, not through business. Okay, so it's like how to get people to understand in the U.S. whether I just recently, 6 months ago, talked to the new dean at Stanford about teaching a class on cooperative because they don't have any. Okay,
Yeah.
she at least listened. Okay, the past two didn't even listen. It was like, okay, so what you're talking about. Go ahead, Inigo.
No, I
Inigo.
think that you are right. I mean, last week we were hosting a visit of Schwab Foundation, no, the World Economic Forum in Davos, and most of them, they were telling me, well, but I had no idea about this. No, I had heard about Mondragon, but I didn't even thought that this was real. No, so we need to break this through education. No, and why? Because when every time that we talk to policymakers, no, we realize that they don't know us. No, they don't know even that this is a real business. Okay, why? Because in the universities they never heard about the model, as Ibon says. No, so we had the same experience with Traveling University, Mondragon Team Academy. At the very beginning, when we launched this program, I remember I said, well, we have business management, so if we launch another one, this is going to compete, no? And it's totally different. The idea was, you know what, that if we want entrepreneurs, we need to teach them in a different way, okay? So, and years after we realized that's true. The profiles of our students in business, regular business management is one, and we have entrepreneurship and leadership that is very different. Okay, why? Because if you teach our students, no, for being just a part of a big machinery, no, they will do this. But if we teach them, no, that we can collectively be entrepreneurship, they will act in a different way. So in the same way, we need to let our students know that there is another way of doing business that is a profitable business. No, as Michael said, well, nothing to do with socialism, nothing to do with masterism. I mean, Arizmendiarrieta, that was our founder, was a Catholic priest. Okay, the theory was based in the social. In the social approach of the Catholic Church, okay, so nothing to do with that. But we can do profitable. We can have profitable business, and we can also be a business with heart, a business with values, and values in action. So when people talk about solidarity, you say, well, how much, when, and for who? And this is the idea that we have tools, real tools, working tools, with a success. When at the very beginning they say, well, the Mondragon experiment, well, it's an experiment that is taking more than 70 years, no? So it's a long experiment, so it's more an experience, okay? And it's because of that we think that it's important to spread the experience, because if this experience has been working for years here, we strongly believe that this can be in the States, in Mexico, in so many other countries. Of course, the general circumstances are changing. And probably one of the most challenging things that we have to face now is not only the change, but the speed of the change, okay? So that is important, but the cooperative world has always an answer to every change. So this is important to let them know how education, university, primary schools, secondary schools, engineering schools, lawyers schools, because we have a cooperative way for all of them. So let's try to spread.
Kaisu. Iñigo just talked about heart and values. At the same time, he's talking about a business. I didn't hear that a lot in my MBA, heart and values. So many young people are searching for meaningful work and community. So why do cooperative learning models resonate with younger generations?
Thank you. I think it actually has a lot to do with what Inigo just mentioned, in the sense of we really do believe, and through the work that we've been doing with the young generation, is that they value the collective agency and being part of something and doing something impactful, having a voice and making meaning not only for themselves but also for others. And this really comes down to values, and it comes down to having heart and maybe cultivating your heart in a way, by doing something that you find meaningful and that can have a meaning. And maybe connected to that is also like the collective models somehow naturally favor also diverse perspectives and foster inclusion and equality. And something that we've also seen within the youth that we work with is in a way to challenge the existing structures, or a way to see that also learning and leadership can be more horizontal or more movement based. And somehow some of the things that we've also learned with our youth is that their priorities are changing, in the sense of what do they value, for example, in a workplace. And the fact of being part of a collective, or the fact of seeing that they are making an impact or making a meaning, is actually something that they are intentionally voicing out that has value for them.
Fantastic. So this is a question for all of you. What can participants expect from the New York and Boston Roadshow events? Ibon, could you start?
Well, I think this is a question for our local first organizer, who is Michael Peck. But let me tell you that both Iñigo and I are very, very much looking forward to being there, not only inspiring but also learning from a lot of amazing initiatives that have been developed in the New York ecosystem, especially related to housing. There's a lot where we need to learn, even in our case, in the case of Mondragon. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for creating new coalitions and partnerships, because we really need to scale up this ASETT initiative. And there is a lot we still have to do. There's a very, very positive atmosphere around this gathering, and we look forward to delivering very good results and starting new partnerships and cooperations after this gathering in New York. Please, Michael, you can summarize it much better.
But Michael, before you summarize, also tell people how they can find out about the roadshow.
Right. So the easiest way is to Google ASETT, ASETT, Everbright, and you will come up with the links to the convening events in New York City on May 26th at CUNY Law School, and the convening events in Boston at the SEIU Downtown Labor Hall, and other events that we have programmed throughout the week. We're going to be all day long on the 26th and the 27th in New York City. Mid-morning, we'll drive to Boston, and we'll be in Boston for events the evening of the 28th, all day long on the 29th, and on the 30th as well, Saturday, with the afternoon in Manchester, New Hampshire, before we conclude that evening. And we all depart on the 31st.
Okay, and now, what do people expect to get out of coming to these events?
Well, as Ibon said, we are drawing a bigger circle. The social economy is an incredible opportunity for us because it includes cooperatives, unions, labor, mutualists, faith-based, enterprises, nonprofits, for-profits. It's a much bigger circle. In the old days, we were talking about why are all these natural allies in silos not communicating with each other, not collectively coordinating and creating a bigger critical mass asset. And my response has always been, in the old days, we were talking about should we date or not, but now we're married. Now we're living in the same house, and we have to learn how to live in that same house effectively, because we're signed, sealed, and delivered. The social economy construct is a thing, and it's an incredible thing with a great critical mass of GDP already in the EU. And we can bring this critical mass and all the lessons learned and the lessons we want to learn for a U.S. conversation, as Ibon said. This is a conversation. It's a two-way conversation, sharing, learning in both. That's why we say, mutualist bridges, social economy bridges. And that's why we say antidote against inequality, because inequality is the giant tax on all of us that will put us all out of business as human beings. We have to solve that. So we hope to embrace all these themes and come together with a greater sense of community and a lot of follow-up actions. And I think we should also talk about the ASETT Forum, because the the inaugural ASETT Social Economy Forum took place last May in 2025. 400 of the top social economy activists from around the world were there. 38 business case studies that everybody briefed. So the emphasis was right away on projects, not just thinking, but thinking and doing. And Iñigo and Ibon can talk more about what's going to happen this year, which is going to be in November, right after our hopefully fair and free elections. We get to come to the second ASETT of Social Economy Forum. So Iñigo, I'll turn it over to you.
And before that, I just want to go back to, I want you to Google, everybody out there, Google ASETT. That's one word. Then the other word is EVENTBRITE, Eventbrite. So Google ASETT Eventbrite, and it will come up and tell you about how you can sign up for both of these. Either going to New York or Boston or both. Okay, now, Iñigo.
Well, thank you so much. I think that if you want to talk about another way of doing business, a better way, in my opinion, if you want to talk about social justice and profitability in terms of not only benefits, but also social benefits. And if you want to talk about democracy at work, because we can also talk about what you consider, democracy. Can we consider a country as a democratic country if the companies are not? Well, it's going to be interesting to have every time that we have these meetings, there are new things, new ideas, new concepts emerging, and it's so exciting. At the very beginning, Michael said that the roadshow was my idea, and yes, I'm guilty, but Arizmendiarrieta, our founder, used to say that there is no good idea if it doesn't become into a real plan or an action. And I have to say thank you to Michael, to Chris, and to all our American friends, because they have done the real work of becoming this into a real action. Okay, so thank you very much, and we expect to see you all in New York or in Boston.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Kaisu, back to you. What role does dialogue, storytelling, and relationship building play in creating social change?
I think it's those three elements is kind of the connective tissue of social change, in the sense of, I think dialogue is where we start from, but also where we build our potential collective reality, or at least understanding our differences. So for us, dialogue is the biggest tool to, in a way, practice what we preach and to live that collective democracy through having those conversations. Storytelling, I think it comes to me in two ways. I think one way is the fact of like having different stories that can inspire us, that we can resonate with, and that can make us believe that change is possible. But I think also connected to what Ibon was mentioning before, in the sense of forecasting the future. Also, how can we collectively build maybe even optimistic futures, or futures that we want to see, that then we can build towards a plan and towards an action, as Iñigo was mentioning before. And in my professional life so far, I think relationship building, and not actually only professional life, I think life as a whole, I think relationship building is the biggest asset we can have. that makes us learn, but also makes us get to places. So I think the convening events that we're going to be living together also in New York and Boston, that's what it is all about, to bring people around the same table, connecting over a same mission, and from there see towards we're coming out together.
So here's a personal question. I'm African American. We came out of slavery here. You have brown folks, Hispanic Americans, you have indigenous Americans who had the land and roamed, and then folks came in from Europe and did all kinds of things, such that dialogue, storytelling, relationship building is what we need, what we do in the Black, brown, and Native communities and come together. Why is it you folks from Spain, Europe, why is it so important for you? And you're smiling. Anybody want to tackle that one?
I think Iñigo has to be the one to start answering this one.
Well, well, for us, it's so important. We have been immigrants in Europe. We have been very poor people for years, especially in Basque Country, in Italy. Now everything looks to be so strange now, no? I think, I strongly believe that the human evolution has been thanks to the cooperation and not because of our fights, no? So especially now in this strange world that we live, I think that it's very important. It's very important to underline that the cooperative system, the cooperation, generally speaking, the social economy has always been like a bridge through different communities. Okay, so what we really want to do is to connect communities and to forget about the color of our skin, to forget about our origins, because everything is mixed, no? And we need to accept that this is rich, but not only in terms of society or community, it's also rich in terms of profitability and business. And this is normally, people try to do two different groups, no? If you talk about business, you talk about money, and then we talk about social economy. No, that is another thing. But we do everything together, and it works. And this is the most important thing, that we have an inclusive way of doing business, including everyone, and including, because we think that is much better, and it's much profitable, and it is efficient, highly efficient. And if you look to your history, in America, from European perspective, no, we look a lot of immigrants, because you are Afro-Americans, you are whatever Americans, no? Mm-hmm. But there are no Native Americans, no? So this is a new country made of so many other communities, and this is huge. And you have been an example of integration for years, no? And we need others. We don't want to go to the States in order to let you know what we are doing. No. We want, as Ibon said, to have your experiences for our own and try to share ours. And this is so important. Every time that we have gone to the States, to other countries, talking about our experience, I have had the feeling that we take much more than that we give. And this is true. So we need your experience also for our own cooperative experience. I always explain that when Arizmendiarrieta arrived to Mondragon in 1941, at that time, and I explained this to my American friends, at the same time, the President Roosevelt was pushing the creation of electric cops in the States. The problem is that nobody knows, and this is a pity.
So I don't have time for anybody else to answer that one. Thank you so very much for answering that one. Just say to everybody out there, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you, guys. I would like another hour with you, but we don't have it. And everybody out there, we'd ask you to live cooperatively, and we will see you next week. Please Google ASETT Eventbrite. Thank you.